Hi, everybody. It's Brock from Maltego, where I've been part of the Hunchly team for the past 4 years. For the next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about the new version of Hunchly that we're releasing called Hunchly Free, which you can download from hunch.ly, install on your system, and use for your investigations. If you're not already familiar with Hunchly, it's a tool that can be used to capture and preserve information from the internet and from websites. And everything that gets captured gets a date and timestamp and a cryptographic hash, which means that you can also prove when you collected it, at what time, and you can test the integrity of the information to show that it hasn't been modified since you captured it. Hunchly is used all over the world by investigations teams in law firms, law enforcement, government, insurance companies, video game companies, private investigators, as well as by students, researchers, and all kinds of other people. We're happy to be able to give this version of Hunchly to everybody because we love the community and we want to make sure that we continue to support you guys the way that you've all supported us. So let's get down to it. The first thing you need to do is download Hunchly. You can do that by going to hunch.ly. You're going to have to create a Maltego ID, which means you have to give an email address and then answer some questions. Once you do that, you'll have access to the download page. I've already done that, but I'll just show you. When you click on download, you can choose the version of Hunchly that you want. We support Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And for Linux and Mac OS, we support ARM and Intel processors. So make sure you get the correct version of Hunchly for the correct processor that you're using in your system. Hunchly runs on Chrome. And we have an extension that gets installed into the system. It will work on any of the Chromium-based browsers, so things like Edge, Chrome, Brave, Opera, Helium, or any of the other number of Chrome browsers that exist out there will all support Hunchly. The reason that we use Chrome is because Chrome has the ability to save web pages as a single file, MHTML file, which we use to make a local copy of pages that are captured. And this is used to back up the screenshots that you take when you're using Hunchly. So I've already got Hunchly installed, and we'll just get right into it. What you see here is the Hunchly dashboard, and Hunchly consists of two parts: the extension that I've already talked about and the Hunchly dashboard. The dashboard is the case management system and is the interface for all of the data that you're capturing. When you install Hunchly, it creates a folder on your system, and then in that folder, it creates a local database, and everything is captured locally onto the system with no interaction with the cloud whatsoever. So any of the data that you're capturing or anything that you're doing is not visible to us. We can't see it. We don't know what you're doing. We have no ability to look at any of that data whatsoever. So you don't have to worry about protecting the security or the privacy of your investigation. Everything is controlled on your local system. With Hunchly Free, we've limited a bunch of the features. So you'll see in a few places that you'll have a red bar or you'll have a buy button, and you'll see this in the settings menu as well. Down here, you have Manage Data Extensions, the Hunchly Cases folder. Everything that you do in Hunchly is based around a case. So the first thing that happens when you start it up is that you'll see that you have a case called Unassigned, and you have some history here in the dashboard. And this shows you things like the number of pages that you viewed, any searches you did, captioned images, selector matches, notes taken, and then a bunch of information here across the bottom. So the easiest way to start using Hunchly is to just turn it on in the browser and start working with it. So I'm going to go to the extension, turn on capture, and I'll even just refresh this page and let Hunchly do its thing. And you'll see that as I'm working, Hunchly is going to capture pages and you'll see them show up in the dashboard. When pages are captured by the extension, you'll see that the extension will turn orange. That indicates that the capture is happening, and then you'll see it on the left-hand side. So I'm going to do what I think pretty much every good investigator does, and I'm just going to start with Google. And we'll do a little mini investigation and we'll look into David Hasselhoff. And we'll start by just looking at information on the website. And you'll see that pages will start to capture. I think this is a good picture. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to caption it. So Hunchly is really designed to work with you as you're just doing your research or doing your investigation. And it'll just run in the background and capture everything that you're looking at. So you can see we've got some pretty good information so far. And we'll keep looking. We'll see if David Hasselhoff has some social media. Okay. We've captured a bunch of information here now. Let's see. I think this is a really good image, so I want to take a note of this as well. So I'm just going to right-click on this image, and I will add a caption to it. And all I did is right-clicked on the image, chose the Hunchly menu, add a caption, and we'll write a little note here. There's a lot of features in Hunchly that are really designed to help you just keep track of the investigation that you're doing. So if you see a piece of information that's important or an image that's important, you can put a caption on it. If there's something on a page that's important, we have the ability to take a note. You can right-click, take a note, and save it. And you'll see that this stuff will show up over on the history panel in the dashboard. So we're going to jump over here now and have a look at what's been going on. I've captured a number of pages, and you'll see that gets reflected here. So I've got 8 pages, I've done a search, I've got a captioned image, and I took a note. If you look here in the history, you can see that there's a series of screenshots along the left. These are the thumbnails. And you can see it's organized from newest to oldest. So this is the oldest at the bottom, the first thing I did. You can see my investigation kind of steps through time to the newest page that we captured. And then each page that we capture has a screenshot. And then you can click on this information here, and this will open the local MHTML copy of the page. So what I'm looking at right now is the page that's saved on my computer. If I click on any links on this page, it's going to open to the browser. So I might not want to do that. I'm not going to do that now, but just keep that in mind that if you're looking at something sensitive, you click on a link that maybe could be a bad link. It could be something that you don't want to reveal. It will open in a browser and you'll get the live link from the internet. So you want to try to avoid that. The other thing that gets captured when we capture a page is the source of the page. So this is the HTML code that the page is made of, and also the JavaScript. Most pages now have a lot of JavaScript in the back end, so we capture that as well. There's exploitable information in all of this captured data. If you're looking at things like Facebook or Instagram, this is where you'll find important information like user ID, page IDs, group IDs that you can use to further the depth and the breadth of your investigation. Now we'll look at the note that I took. So if you remember, I noted David Hasselhoff's Facebook profile. What that did is it took a screenshot and then it just attached a note to the screenshot. If I click on this, it's going to open the MHTML copy of the page. The other thing I did was I took a caption of the image. So same thing. If I click on that, it'll open the image. You see I have a copy of it. And it's annotated with the note that I put on it, which was David Hasselhoff. While we're sitting here in images, we should also talk about the EXIF extraction that's happening on the back end. So EXIF is metadata that's applied to images, and this could be done by a camera when you take an image, or it could be done by software. So if you're editing an image and you use Photoshop, EXIF data may get encoded onto the image. Normally nowadays, this gets stripped off by different platforms, or users know that it exists and they'll strip it off themselves. But sometimes you'll get images that will have that information on it, and sometimes it could be really useful. You see that these two images here, they just have some copyright image, something about an image description, resolution, and things like that. Once in a while, you might find some images that have some geolocation data on them, or maybe it'll have some information about the camera that was used, the type of lenses that were used, things like that. You never know. So we grab that information and we extract it and we display it in the dashboard. The other thing that happened so far in this investigation was a search. Hunchly will track all the searches that you do across a number of different search engines, including Bing, DuckDuckGo, Google, Yandex. If you do searches on YouTube or X, Twitter, those searches will get captured as well, and they'll show up. This is just another thing to help you reconstruct your investigation. You see over here on the right that we have something called data. In the paid version of Hunchly, we have this really awesome feature called data extractors, and it can be used to automatically identify and extract key pieces of information from web pages. Things like email addresses, IP addresses, different types of tracking cookies, cryptocurrency wallet addresses, and you can also define your own data extractors. So you could add in things that are particular to your investigation. And this is all done supporting regex. and it runs on the index to look through the data being captured and creates this list that you can then use to do other enrichment. You could take data extractors and you could feed them into the Multigo graph as entities, and you could further investigate them through those types of systems. Okay, so we'll jump back into the investigation and capture some more information. See what we can come up with. One of the common questions that comes up is, how does Hunchly capture video? And by default, Hunchly doesn't natively capture video, but we do have the ability to support this. So let's find a video. I think we can do a reel. Okay, here's an Instagram reel. You see that on the left, the dashboard has captured it, and you'll see the thumbnail. So we do get a preview of what that looks like. But if I go over to the dashboard and I look at it, Hunchly hasn't captured the video because it doesn't have the capability to do this. So what I always recommend for people to do here is to use a third-party tool, something like YTDLP, or what I like to use most of the time, Cobalt Tools. Cobalt Tools is a project that's developed by a couple of developers who seem to be really privacy focused. It's also the team that makes the Helium browser, and they've done a really good job with this tool. You can use it to grab video and attach this to your case. And I'll show you how to do this. So I copied the URL of that reel, and I'm going to paste it in here. And tell it to do its thing. You're young. Okay. You can see that Cobalt Tools has pulled this video for me. So I'm now going to save the video. I'll call it Hasselhoff. And I'm going to save this on my desktop and see that it's downloaded. So we'll jump over here. You'll see that there's this heading here called attachments, and the video has showed up. So Hunchly has the capability to monitor the downloads folder. You can turn it on in the settings, and anything that you download while Hunchly is active in your browser will automatically get attached into your case file. When it gets attached, it's going to get a date and a timestamp and a cryptographic hash, just like every other piece of information. But you need to note that this is going to be the date and the timestamp of the information when you attached it to your case file. So it will reflect the time and the date that you attached it at, not the time and the date of the content itself. This is now going to be available when I do a case export, and I'll be able to share it with other people or whatever I need to do with it. This will work for any type of file format as well. So if you had PDF files or Word documents, text files, you name it, anything that you could download, Hunchly will support attaching it as an attachment to your case file. It even gives you some space to write some description or annotation. So I'll just make a quick note so I don't lose track. You can imagine that in the course of an investigation, you might end up with thousands of pages captured and hundreds of attachments. So some of these features, like using the notes and having the ability to annotate things, really come in handy because it allows you to keep track of what you've done and to understand what it is you've captured. Okay, so let's jump back into the history and have a look, because I've also done some other captures here while we were getting ready to download that video. So you see that I captured Facebook and Instagram pages here, and I want to talk about that because this is a common thing that comes up with Hunchly captures. Hunchly is really effective at capturing static images, static pages, where the page is just created and that's it. It's not dynamic. It's not infinitely scrolling. It's not loading or doing anything weird in order to give you a better experience. Hunchly is really good at capturing these pages, and you can see that by looking at Wikipedia. But if I go and I look at something like an Instagram page or Facebook post, first we'll look at Facebook, you'll see that I get a relatively good capture, but there are some weird glitches in this page. And this is because of the way that Facebook presents information to you when you look at Facebook. These social media applications or platforms are actually like JavaScript applications, and they've got a lot of complexity going on behind the scenes. Some of it is because something like Facebook is quite old at this point. So there's a lot of code and a lot of change over time, and there's old code and there's old infrastructure out there that they're still using. But some of it is the platforms are trying to make the experience of the user really enjoyable, or maybe make it really compelling for you to keep scrolling. So they want it to always be fresh and load really quickly while you're scrolling through web pages or through the platform pages. And that makes it really difficult for Hunchly to capture because Hunchly is capturing at a certain stage when the page is rendered. And when we're capturing the page, maybe certain things haven't loaded yet. So you see that kind of effect happening here. Profile pictures are showing up with placeholders. And as I scroll down, you'll see that I got some of the page here, but all of a sudden I don't have posts. Now, if I go and I look at the Facebook page itself, you'll see that David Hasselhoff's Facebook page, I should be able to just open this here. David Hasselhoff's Facebook page doesn't have blank spots in it. And this is another effect of this infinite scroll behavior where the platform is really loading things into memory as you need it. And then as you scroll past it, it's loading, dumping it out of the memory to make the experience as smooth as possible. And you can see that like when I scroll, pages load, posts load really quickly. Things are very smooth. But if I go and I look at these captures that I've just done, they're going to be challenging to do. So you can imagine if I had to capture certain posts from a page, or if I had to capture like a profile and I wanted to get a look at everything they posted, it's going to be difficult to put that together. So there's a couple different ways that you can work around this and force Hunchly to do a better job at capturing these things. The first one is that you can use the notes feature or the manual capture to force it to do screenshots when you want it. So if you look at how screenshots normally work in Hunchly, it usually captures the top of the page when the page first loads. We can manipulate that and we can use that to capture the full stream of posts on this platform. So what I'm going to do is go down a bit and just do a capture. And you can do that by clicking on the Hunchly guy, right-clicking there and choose capture. That'll do a manual capture. And then I can scroll further down and I'll right-click here, choose capture, and that'll do a manual capture. If you look in the dashboard, you see that the screenshots are going to reflect where I did the capture on the page. And by doing that, over time, you can build up the full kind of feed that you need to capture just by doing screenshots. You can also do this by right-clicking and choosing capture down here off the Hunchly context menu. You could also choose to take a note. So if you click take a note, then you can put a little note on it. And that also forces it to take a screenshot of the page as it appears. This also happens on Instagram and Twitter and other pages as well. Anything that's infinite scroll will have these kind of challenges. I'll show you on Instagram. Here's what David Hasselhoff's Instagram profile looks like. He's got 1,100 posts. And if I run a capture, I'll just let this scroll a bit. I jump over here. If I click on his Instagram page that I've captured, you'll see I'll have kind of the same effect. So I have some of his posts, and then it just stops. And I've definitely scrolled further than that. The same kind of solution can be applied to Instagram pages as it could be applied to Facebook page. So you could go and you could line up where you need to do a capture. So you can imagine that I'm able to capture, say, to there, and then I can right-click on the Hunchly guy, choose capture. It'll do a screenshot of the next section. By doing that, you can kind of knit together the profile. But we've got another feature that we developed to deal with this problem. So we built some automation into Hunchly to handle these infinite scroll pages. And it works really well on Instagram profiles. And I'll show you how to do that. So you see if I click here, I'm just going to left click on the Hunchly extension. There's a tab here called automation. The automation feature is used to automatically scroll a page and stop the platform from loading it out of the memory of the system. And then Hunchly will do a capture once it's got the full page loaded up. You can limit the number of scrolls. So I'm not going to run it on 1,100 posts, but I will do a demo and we can have a look at what it does. So first we need to get the URL. I'm going to copy this and then we're going to put it in the extension. Now you can put it in here and I'll show you. You can also put this in the dashboard by going to the automation tab and then you can add it. And I'll put this in here and then you can set the number of scrolls. So if I set this to 0, it's going to scroll infinitely until it hits the end of the page and it'll try to capture everything that's there. There is a warning about this because if you don't have enough RAM in your system, or if it's a huge profile, the system is going to try to load every image that it captures into system memory. So you can overload your system by doing this and you could bog everything down and you could crash Hunchly and you could crash your computer. So just be cautious. If you have a system with only 8 gigabytes of RAM, maybe use this very cautiously. If you have 32 gigabytes of RAM, your mileage may vary. You might have a better experience. So I'm just going to tell this to do 25 scrolls. And then I click add, and then we'll jump to the extension and we can run it. I'll just let it do its thing. And you can set up to 10 of these automations in Hunchly. So what we've been telling people to do is that if they have to do a bunch of these captures, try to do it at the end of the day and just queue them up, hit start, let it go. And when you come back to work in the morning, your pages will be captured. And you'll see that scrolling, I don't have my hands on the mouse or anything like that. Okay. All right. Capture's done. You jump back over to the dashboard, have a look. Here's the page we just captured. So if you remember what it looked like before, when I scrolled, there would be like blank pages or the feed would just stop. So let's see what it looks like now. Way more information, way more posts. Okay. So you can see that this is super useful and we could use it for Facebook. We could use it for Twitter. We could do lots of different infinite scroll captures with this. The other thing that I want to talk to you about in this session is the idea of selectors. Like I've said a couple of times, we really designed Hunchly to make investigators' lives easier for them by taking notes, by automatically capturing things, allowing you to keep track of your investigation. We also want to make it easy for you to find that information that you're looking for on the pages that you're capturing. And like I said, you might end up with thousands of pages. We have customers who have 5,000 page captures and hundreds of captioned images and hundreds of notes. And it gets really hard to find information in that way and to keep things organized. The free version of Hunchly has the global search turned off. And if you want to get this, you can buy a licensed version of Hunchly. This gives you the ability to do searches across the entire case directory that you have on your system using plain text, using different filters, and can help you find information. One of the other things we have, though, to support finding this information in pages is the idea of selectors. And selectors are really like a keyword match. You can add any type of thing that you want as a selector. It could be an IP address, it could be a telephone number, it could be a name, it could be a cryptocurrency wallet, it could be a license plate number. Hunchly will help to identify if that specific keyword is matched on a page and will give you an indication so that you can see it and you can find it. The other thing that we do to support this is that you can have the ability to highlight these selectors on pages. And I have this turned on already. And you'll see when I'm using it that information will be highlighted in yellow on the pages. So I'm just going to add a couple of selectors. I think we've got SpongeBob as one of them. I think we can add submarine, and I'm just picking these out of my head. I know David Hasselhoff lives in California, and let's try Baywatch. Okay. I will point out too that you'll see that we support regex selectors in the paid version of Hunchly. You can't use them in the free version. This is very similar to the data extractors. Hunchly supports the use of regular expressions, which allows you to make much more complicated pattern matching. So you could match things to very complicated search terms to allow you to find more complicated information. If you want to try that out, buy a license. Okay, so I've got a few selectors set up in the dashboard, and you'll see right away that I have hits already. So for Baywatch, I have 9 hits. California, I have 1 hit. Sponge, submarine, I didn't get any. It helps to spell submarine properly, so let's fix that one. We didn't get any hits anyway. So if I click on Baywatch, it's going to filter my history, and you'll see that I have pages that have Baywatch as a term showing up in them. If I click on, let's see, the David Hasselhoff Wikipedia page, somewhere in this page, it says Baywatch. And I'll turn capture back on. If I capture a page with the selectors turned on, you'll see that the Hunchly guy gets a little indicator that there are 3 hits on this page. So we can go and we can look and see what we got hits for. We got Baywatch, California, and Sponge. And you'll see that they show up and they're highlighted on the page. So now if I go and I look over in the history here, my selectors are going to be highlighted. So I got Sponge from SpongeBob, Baywatch, and we should find, there you go. This can be used to help you find things that might otherwise be difficult to find. A lot of investigators will spend time just doing like Control F or Command F to just manually type in the piece of information they're looking for. We really want to make it easy for you to do that. The other thing you can do with this is you can bulk add them. So if you had a case that you're working on, if you're working through the intelligence cycle, and in your planning stage, you determined what pieces of information would be relevant or valuable for you to find. Maybe it's a bunch of IOCs, indicators of compromise. Maybe it's a bunch of telephone numbers or cryptocurrency wallets or email addresses or something like that. You could put them all in here in bulk. You just put one on a separate line, each one, hit save, and then you'll have a whole list of your selectors, and then you can start your investigation and see if you get hits. All of this information can also be exported. You can export it here, but when we do a case export, you'll see it come up in the exported file as well. The other piece of organizational technology that we have in Hunchly is the idea of tags. And tags are very similar to selectors. You can bulk add them and you can use them however you want to organize your information. I personally don't use them that much, but I know lots of people who do. So I think one of the things you could do is you could imagine if you were doing a complex investigation and you had a number of different subjects, person A, person B, person C, person D, and you're collecting social media or information about each of these people. Maybe it's a corporate investigation and you're looking at the corporate officers. You could make tags for each of those people. And then as you're collecting pages, you could tag them with the tag and that will organize them in the case system. The other thing that I see people do sometimes is make tags for different social media. So I'll make an Instagram tag and I'll make a Facebook tag, and then we'll see about applying them. Now, this can be done after the fact when you capture a page. So this is Facebook. So I'm going to apply the Facebook tag just by clicking on it. But the other thing that I can do is when I'm capturing the page itself, if I click up here on the Hunchly guy, click on tags, I can click on Facebook and that will apply that tag. Then when I go back over here, you can see that I have a tagged page. If I click on the tag, it will apply a filter. And then when the filter's applied, you can also see that I also have selectors here. So you can make more complicated filters on your case information by combining tags and selectors. And all of these tags can also be used when you do your exports. Okay, so I'll just clear this stuff off. Now we've gone through an investigation, we've captured a bunch of information, and we need to do something with it. And usually what you want to do is take it and maybe you're going to do some processing or analysis on it, or maybe you need to export it and share it with somebody else, or you want to take it out and maybe work on a report or do something like that. So Hunchly has the ability to export case data. In the paid version of Hunchly, we have a report builder, which gives you the ability to write reports directly in Hunchly itself. You can save them as a Word document, as a Markdown file, or as a PDF, and they can be exported and shared with whoever's got to consume it. In the free version, we just have the ability to export a case or do a custom export. And first we'll look at exporting the case. When I click on this, it's going to export every piece of information that was captured in this case. And I'm just going to save this on my desktop. So Hunchly will put together the case export, package everything together, and save it to the desktop. And I'll just go and have a look at that. What it does is it creates a zip file. And then when you open that zip file up, just extract it. It has the full contents of everything that we just looked at. The first thing that I like to call people's attention to is this report.html. And this gives you an interactive index of the contents of the case. You can see that it can be organized from newest to oldest or oldest to newest. It shows you screenshots. And it will have over here the URL of the page that was captured, the content hash of the page, and the ID of the page. The ID is just used by Hunchly to keep track. So this is the 666th page that I captured in Hunchly. If I click on this, it will show me the screenshot, and this is the local copy. It's a JPEG. You'll see that's what the screenshot looks like. If I go back, if I click on the URL over here, make sure I open David Hasselhoff, this will open the local MHTML copy of the page. So you can see that it's locally on my hard drive, and this is the capture. The same rules apply to the history when you look at them through the export file that apply as to when you look at them through the dashboard. So if I click on this, it's going to open on the live website, except it doesn't give you a warning this time. And you can see that now I'm on the live Instagram page with David Hasselhoff's profile. So something to keep in mind, if you share this with somebody and there's sensitive information there, and maybe they're not using a attribution system or they're not on a secure investigative system, and it could be hard for them to click on a link, you need to keep that in mind, because if they click that link, they could associate their IP address and their system to the data that they're looking at, because platform operators can see what your IP address is and the fingerprint of your system and things like that when you connect to it. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, back to the index. So you see I've got 18 pages. I have 2 notes. So the notes that I took are here, have a captioned photo, and have the attachment video that we saved. If I click on this video, you're young, we'll play it from my local hard drive. This file can be shared with other users and they can import it into Hunchly and use it to further the case, maybe to look at the information that you provided, or maybe to validate the work that you've done. So the other stuff that's here in the case file includes all of the pages that were captured. So here you have the JPEG and HTML versions of every page. Any of the tagged photos that we did. So I did caption a photo. The photos themselves. So I have a setting turned on in my dashboard to extract every photo that Hunchly comes across. You'll see that I have 267 images, which means that Hunchly has gone and extracted every image that it's come across from a captured page. And there'll be a huge amount of images in here, and you never know what you'll find. The note screenshots. So here are the notes, any attachments. So here's the video that we saved, and any of the case data. When you look in here, this is where you have a bunch of JSON files, CSV files, different things like that. It keeps track of everything that you've done in your investigation and gives you the ability to maybe carve some of this data up, do some further data analysis, rebuild the history of your investigation, maybe extract some selector hits, import them into other systems, code of pages, do things like that. So you'll see that, let's see what we have. Tags, for example. I put in 2 tags. There are the tags. That's not super exciting. How about tagged pages? This here shows you that I use tag ID 21 and page ID 666, tag ID 21, page ID 664. So tag ID 21 obviously is Facebook, and these are Facebook captures. And the page ID is the page sequence that the page was captured in by Hunchly. So the 664th page was captured. You can see selector hits. It's very similar. It will show you what the selector was, what the page ID is, and then you can reconstruct the information or the course of the investigation from that. Any photos. So this will show you all of the photos that were captured by the system, where the URLs were that they were captured from. You can see that there's a significant amount of information in here. You get the idea. It's always worthwhile to go through and get yourself up to speed with what's possible by looking through the contents of the export file, because there's a lot of little tips and tricks that you can pick up by playing around with this stuff. Okay, back to the dashboard. The other thing we can do is a custom export. So you can pick and choose what you want to export. So say you only had to export specifically tagged pages, or you only want to export page captures, or maybe only the notes. This is where you can do that. And finally, like I said before, Report Builder, but Report Builder is only available to licensed versions of Hunchly. The other thing that you can do here is you can import a case. So if you click on this little hamburger menu, you can choose to import a case. You can call it Brock case, and I'm going to select a zip file. I'll just choose unassigned.zip, and I'm going to import this. And you'll see that this gives me the ability to at least look at this other case. It takes a while because it has to populate all the fields. Okay, so now here I am in Brock case, totally different case from unassigned case, although it has all the same information. I'll point out to you though that I can't change the case that I'm capturing to unless I have a license. So it's useful if I want to take a look at things, but I can't add to that case. Okay, so with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching this video where you've learned some of the features of Hunchly Free and how to use them. We've also talked about what the difference is between the free version of Hunchly and the licensed version of Hunchly. We talked about how to do page captures, talked about the concept of time and date stamps and cryptographic hashes. We looked at how you can capture different types of pages, including video content and maybe some other content like PDF files or Word documents. We talked about taking notes for your investigation, annotating or captioning images, attaching files, and doing exports and looking through the contents of those exports. If you have any questions and you want to know more about Hunchly, if you have any questions in general, you can find me on Discord and hit me up, and I'll be sure to answer you. So once again, thanks for trying out Hunchly. Thanks for watching the video, and have a great day.